My name is Victoria Ashford, and the moment Brittany Maxwell decided my trust fund belonged to her, she sealed her own fate. It was Christmas Eve, and the house smelled of cinnamon and pine needles. I'd driven 3 hours from the city to spend the holiday with family, carrying gifts I'd carefully chosen and a bottle of wine that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. I should have stayed in Manhattan. I was arranging presents under the tree when Brittany appeared in the doorway, her engagement ring catching the firelight like a weapon. She'd been dating my brother Marcus for 8 months, but she moved through our family home like she owned it already. "Victoria, we need to talk," she said, her voice honey-sweet in that calculated way that made my skin crawl. I straightened, brushing pine needles from my cashmere sweater. "About what?" She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her overpowering perfume. "Your trust fund. Marcus and I have been talking, and we think it's time you did something meaningful with it." The words hit me like ice water. "Excuse me?" "Our wedding," she continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "We've found the most incredible venue, Rosewood Manor. It's where dreams come true, but it's expensive. Really expensive. And since you're not married, not even dating anyone seriously, we thought." "You thought what, exactly?" My voice stayed level, but something sharp was building behind my ribs. "That family helps family," she said, tilting her head with practiced sympathy. "Marcus is your only brother. This is his one chance at happiness." Before I could respond, my mother appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her smile was too bright, too eager. "Oh, are you girls talking about the wedding? Isn't it exciting?" "We were discussing Victoria's contribution," Brittany said smoothly. My mother's eyes lit up. "Of course. Victoria, you'll help, won't you? Family sacrifices for love." The phrase hit the air like a slap. I looked between them, Brittany with her predatory smile, my mother nodding along like a puppet. "My contribution? Your trust fund," Brittany said as if it were obvious. "It's not like you're using it for anything important. No boyfriend, no wedding plans. But Marcus and I, we have a future to build." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "My trust fund is mine. My grandfather left it to me." "Exactly." Brittany clapped her hands together. "And what better way to honor his memory than by helping create the wedding of the century? Marcus deserves happiness, Victoria. Real happiness." My mother stepped forward, her expression earnest. "Sweetheart, you've always been independent. You don't need that money the way they do. Think of it as an investment in your brother's future." The room fell silent except for the crackling of the fire. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. Someone who could watch another woman demand her daughter's inheritance and nod along like it made perfect sense. "How much?" I asked quietly. Brittany's smile widened. "Well, the venue is $300,000 just for the day. Then there's catering, flowers, the dress I've had my eye on." "How much total?" She exchanged a glance with my mother. "Around $800,000. Maybe $1 million if we do it right. Nearly my entire trust fund. The money my grandfather had spent decades building, working 16-hour days at his construction company, living modestly so his granddaughter would never want for anything. The money he'd protected with legal documents that made it mine and mine alone." "I need to think about it," I said. Brittany's face fell slightly. "What's to think about?" "It's family." I said I need to think about it. I walked past them, up the stairs to my old bedroom, and closed the door. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and called James Morrison, my financial advisor. "Victoria, it's Christmas Eve. What's wrong?" "I need to know something," I said, sitting on the edge of my childhood bed. If I wanted to make a large purchase quickly, I mean within days, what would be possible? "How large are we talking?" I told him. James whistled low. "That's doable, but can I ask why the urgency?" I stared out the window at the snow-covered garden where Marcus and I used to build snowmen. "I'm about to teach someone the difference between asking and demanding." The next morning, Christmas Day, I came downstairs to find Brittany and Marcus on the couch, looking through wedding magazines. She'd made herself coffee in my mother's kitchen, feet tucked under her like she lived here. "Victoria," she chirped. "Have you decided? Because I'd love to put down the deposit today. Rosewood Manor is in such high demand." I poured myself coffee, taking my time. "Actually, I've been researching Rosewood Manor. Beautiful place. Isn't it?" Her eyes gleamed. "The ballroom has these crystal chandeliers, and the gardens are like something from a fairy tale. It's perfect for our vision." "Your vision," I repeated. "Well, yes. Marcus and I have it all planned out. Ivory and gold theme, String quartet for the ceremony. Reception under the stars. Sounds expensive. That's why we need your help, Marcus said, speaking for the first time. My brother looked uncomfortable, but he was still asking. Still expecting me to hand over my inheritance so his fiancée could play princess. I set down my coffee cup. I won't be giving you my trust fund. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Brittany's smile faltered. What? You heard me. The money my grandfather left me stays mine. Her face flushed red. But we need it. This is our dream wedding. Then dream smaller. She shot to her feet, wedding magazines scattering to the floor. You can't be serious. It's just money sitting in an account doing nothing. It's my money. You're being selfish, she spat. You have no one to spend it on anyway. At least this way, it would go towards something beautiful, something meaningful. Like what? Your ego? Marcus stood too, his face tight. Victoria, come on. It's Brittany's dream. Can't you help us out this once? I looked at my brother, really looked at him. When had he become this person? Someone who'd ask his sister to bankrupt herself for a party? No, Marcus. I can't. My mother appeared in the doorway, drawn by the raised voices. What's going on? Your daughter is being impossible, Brittany snapped. She's going to ruin our entire wedding over money she doesn't even need. Victoria, my mother said gently, surely you can see how much this means to them. It's just money. Just money. The phrase echoed in my head as I stared at the three of them. My family and the woman who'd decided my inheritance was hers to claim. You're right, I said finally. It is just money. Brittany's face brightened. So you'll help? No, but you've given me a wonderful idea of how to spend it. I walked out of that house knowing I'd never see it the same way again. They'd drawn their battle lines, made it clear where I stood in their priorities. Fine. I could work with that. The drive back to Manhattan gave me 3 hours to plan. By the time I reached my apartment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. James met me at his office the next morning, even though it was the day after Christmas. He had contracts, transfer documents, everything I'd need. You're sure about this? He asked, sliding the papers across his mahogany desk. Absolutely certain. It's a significant purchase. You'll be spending nearly half your trust fund on. Revenge, I finished. I'm spending it on revenge. He smiled. In that case, let me make sure we do this right. The process took 3 days. 3 days of phone calls, negotiations, wire transfers, and legal documents. Rosewood Manor had been for sale for months. The elderly owner wanted to retire, but only to someone who would preserve its legacy. Someone with both the means and the vision to maintain its grandeur. Someone exactly like me. When the final papers were signed, I owned one of the most exclusive wedding venues on the East Coast. Every crystal chandelier, every manicured garden, every fairy tale detail that Brittany had described so lovingly, it was all mine. I waited until New Year's Eve to make my move. The text was simple. Hi Brittany. Just wanted you to know I decided to do something meaningful with my trust fund after all. I bought Rosewood Manor. Unfortunately, I won't be able to accommodate your wedding there, as I've decided the venue will be family-only events. Hope you understand. Happy New Year. Victoria. My phone rang within minutes. What the hell did you just text me? Brittany's voice was shrill, panicked. Exactly what I said. I bought Rosewood Manor. That's impossible. You can't people don't just buy wedding venues. I did. Would you like to see the deed? The line went quiet except for her ragged breathing. This is insane, she whispered. You bought an entire manor just to what? Spite us. I bought it because I realized you were right. I should do something meaningful with my money. And keeping it away from people who think they're entitled to it feels pretty meaningful to me. Marcus grabbed the phone. Victoria, this is crazy. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. And Marcus, the next time your fiancée demands someone else's inheritance, you might want to think about what kind of person that makes her. And what kind of person it makes you for going along with it. I hung up. The calls came in waves after that. Brittany, crying and screaming alternately. Marcus, trying to negotiate. My mother, pleading for reason. I let them all go to voicemail. Within a week, the story had spread through their social circles. Brittany's friends knew she'd lost her dream venue. The wedding vendors she'd been bragging to about her unlimited budget knew the money had vanished. The deposits she couldn't afford to lose on other vendors, gone. 2 weeks later, I was in my new office at Rosewood Manor, reviewing applications from couples who actually appreciated what they were asking for, when my assistant buzzed in. Ms. Ashford? There's a Brittany Maxwell here to see you. She says it's about a wedding booking. I almost laughed. Send her in. Brittany looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes wrinkled, her perfect makeup smudged. She sat across from my desk without being invited. Victoria, please. I'm begging you. For what? Let us have the wedding here. I'll do anything. We'll pay whatever you want. With what money? I thought you needed mine because you couldn't afford it. Her face crumpled. We've been trying to find another venue, but everything comparable is booked for the next 2 years or costs even more, or... She broke off, tears streaming down her cheeks. This was supposed to be perfect. This was supposed to be my day. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. Let me ask you something, Brittany. When you demanded my trust fund, did you think about what that money meant to me? What? My grandfather built that money dollar by dollar. He worked himself to death, so I'd never have to depend on anyone. So I'd never have to beg. And you looked at all of that and decided it should be yours because you wanted a party. It wasn't just a party. It was exactly that. A single day that you decided was worth more than my security, my independence, my future. You looked at me and saw nothing but a bank account. She stared at me, mascara streaking down her face. So no, Brittany. You can't have your dream wedding here. Not now, not ever. Find somewhere else to play princess. Victoria, please. Security will show you out. I pressed the buzzer, and within moments, 2 uniformed guards appeared to escort her from the building. That evening, I walked through the empty ballroom, my footsteps echoing off the marble floors. The crystal chandeliers caught the last rays of sunlight streaming through the tall windows, casting rainbows across the walls. Tomorrow, I had a consultation with a lovely couple from Boston who'd been saving for 3 years to afford their dream wedding. They'd sent handwritten thank you notes just for considering their application. They understood gratitude, understood that some things were privileges, not rights. My phone buzzed with another voicemail from my mother, another plea to reconsider, and think about family. I deleted it without listening. I'd thought about family plenty. I'd thought about what it meant when family looked at you and saw only what you could give them. I'd thought about what happened when you spent years being generous, only to have that generosity seen as obligation. But I'd also thought about what family could mean when you chose it instead of just accepting it. The staff here treated me with respect. The couples who booked events sent thank you gifts and holiday cards. They saw Rosewood Manor as a gift, not a given. Standing in my ballroom, I realized I'd never been happier to spend money in my life. Not because I'd hurt Brittany and Marcus, though I had, but because I'd finally learned the difference between being generous and being a doormat. The trust fund my grandfather left me was meant to give me choices. And choosing to keep it away from people who demanded it like they owned it, that felt like exactly what he would have wanted. Outside, snow began to fall, dusting the fairy tale gardens that Brittany would never walk through in a wedding dress. The manor settled around me with satisfied silence, as if it too understood that some things were worth protecting. I smiled and turned off the lights, leaving my castle secure for the night.